So ladies and gentlemen, we are moving to the last speech of this morning section related to financial service. So as we know that financial service play a key role in people's lives because most of people rely on bank to pay their bills or to receive salaries. Products such as mortgages and pensions enable them to buy their house or save for their retirement. So there is one little problem that minority lack access to even basic financial services. So with the mission to export economic freedom to the world and empowering 1.7 billion people with no bank account across the globe, GetPip team is working together to build technologies and products to help people to break free from local economic and also to connect one another financially. So we'll move to the next topic, how global micropayment can solve financial exclusion. And let's hear from Jeff Pike, CEO from GetPip. Please welcome him.
Happy to be here. I'm Jeff Pike. I'm the co-founder and CEO of GetPip.com. GetPip.com is a payment service. You can think of it as Stripe.com or PayPal of Web3. So we specifically deal with stablecoins and cryptocurrencies, not fiat rail. We're invested by Coinbase and Galaxy Digital and incubated by Binance. But the topic I'm going to be discussing is much more important than my company itself. So if you are curious about what we do, check out GetPip.com. So, how global micropayments can solve financial exclusion. I think this is a it's very broad topic, but I'll try to my best to simplify. So, what is global micropayments? Global micropayments refers to small value transactions across international borders. So, pretty simple, global and micro value payments. But we never really had global micropayments because there are two primary reasons why. The first is obviously there are too many intermediaries. So intermediaries are basically the institutions or organizations that intermediate payments. So central banks, I think the Vietnam has central bank, State Bank of Vietnam, I think. And clearinghouses in Vietnam, NAPAS is the clearinghouse. And communication networks like SWIFT and correspondent banks and commercial banks and financial services, they're all playing this intermediary role, which reduces the cost and efficiency of payments. So very simplified version of how money works is when you have a bank account in a commercial bank and you want to send money to a different bank in a local country, if the volume itself is large enough, then it goes to the central bank directly. So most of the countries, developed countries or even developing countries, they have central bank's RTGS system, which settles the large volume payments. But for the smaller volume of payments, they use something called clearinghouses. So they do a netting of payments. And then at the end of the day, the large amount, they also send it to the central bank for RTGS and settle the large amounts. For cross-border payments, there's no single central bank in the world that settles all the banks across the globe, or there's no single clearinghouses that clears all the transactions cross-border. So how do you do that? You rely on another bank who has accounts for different banks called correspondent banks, and then you settle through the correspondent banks. So like Citibank is the popular one. And then you use SWIFT network, which is basically a messaging protocol for banks. So people kind of have a misunderstanding of how SWIFT kind of settles the money, but SWIFT is not really settling the money. SWIFT is simply sending the message to the banks to clear to settle the money. So in this case, the cross-border case, correspondent bank is the central bank or clearinghouses. But the problem with this is that it's a mesh network. It's distributed, right? So you have to go through the multiple correspondent banks to settle even. So it's very inefficient, very slow. That's why the cross-border payment takes more than sometimes 2 days or even a week. So the other primary reasons why we never had global micropayments is because money simply does not move like information. So when I send a message to my friend using WhatsApp or Line or KakaoTalk, it's a data in a database, and it moves instantly across the border, regardless of where the database is, regardless of where I am and my friends are. So that's the beauty of the internet. The internet moves the information quickly, but the money it does not move like information. That's the primary reason. So information flows through the internet, but money flows through the financial institutions, financial market infrastructure, central banks or commercial banks or clearinghouses. So there's a separation between money and information, which is probably the biggest reasons why we cannot have micro value payments across the globe. So as I briefly explained previously, this is the sort of simplified version of financial market infrastructure of how money moves. And when you think of a fintech service in sort of traditional sense, fintech service is nothing more than a UI UX layer on top of the existing banking system. So fintech services simply connects through the API to either a bank or open banking infrastructure, depending on the country, and they simply provide a seamless experience of otherwise difficult, sort of slow, expensive financial infrastructure. That's why we never really had sort of breakthrough in a fintech, because fintech is basically a pretty version of neutral banking. But we now have a crypto and stable coins, which offers a completely alternative financial options. So the way it works is the companies like the stablecoin operators like Circle or Paxos or Tether, they simply put money into a custodial bank and they earn interest for their business model. And the stablecoin moves like permissionlessly, borderlessly, with nobody's permissions or institutions or intermediaries. It can flow just like information. So, which is very incredible, because imagine you want to start a startup, fintech startup. What you have to do is that first you need to get a permission to get the API from the bank or open banking system, or you have to incorporate. You have to go through the hire lawyer, accountants, or engineers, and all these people, and you have to have a certain level of scalability or scale of your business to even start a fintech business. But now we live in a world where as long as you have a wallet, you can right now start a fintech company using stablecoin infrastructure. It doesn't matter you're 17-year-olds in the garage. It doesn't matter you're veteran entrepreneur. You can just start right now. So the prime example is Uniswap or Synthetics. All these people, all these companies, just built by 2 or 3 engineers in a very small startup can build a company that trades billions of dollars daily basis. So it democratizes the sort of entry point of building a fintech service, because it doesn't really rely on a traditional banking or a financial infrastructure. So the stablecoins or the cryptocurrency using blockchain is permissionless, borderless. It allows micropayments, and it's self-custodial. So we never really had this before a few years ago. So in 1991, August 6th, the internet was born, which allowed the information flow instantly, borderlessly, permissionlessly, and globally, right? And 2008, when the Bitcoin white paper came out, we first had the permissionless transfer of value. But the problem with the Bitcoin or Ethereum and all these other cryptocurrencies since 2008 is that it fluctuates. So everybody thought that, oh, we now have a reliable, decentralized, permissionless transfer of value. We can use this to make payments. but it turned out that nobody really actually uses this to make a payment. Ripple started it, and all this sort of, oh, now we can have this global permissionless system. But because the value fluctuates, nobody really ever started a payment company, right? But now, 2014, starting from 2014, starting by Tether, we now have a stable coin. It took for a while. It took almost 10 years now for stablecoin to grow to the significant size, because it's simply you cannot have a payment infrastructure with only $1 or $2 billion market cap of stablecoin. You need to have hundreds of billions or even trillions of dollars of stablecoin. So stablecoins bootstrapped it themselves as sort of hedge against the crypto, or trading pair against cryptocurrency. So that sort of allows Circle and Paxos and Tether to grow to close to $150 billion market cap. Now we're seeing the opportunity of payment industry to pop out, right? So you can see how stablecoin grew. Although it started in 2014, it started to really grow from 2020, right? So we never really had a blockchain-based payment industry before 2020. It's very early. So 2020, it grew to 140 billion within 2 or 3 years, and at the same time, the wallet user growth is significant. So it sort of followed the trajectory of the internet growth as well. So we're now surpassing like 300 million unique wallet users or something. So now we kind of understood what global micropayment is and how can it fix financial exclusion problems. And what is financial exclusion anyway? Financial exclusion refers to an individual with no banking access, who has no bank account, so that they cannot participate in the financial services. That's the financial exclusion. So why people are excluded from financial services? Because banks require 3 C's. 3 C's mean credit, credential, and capital. So if you don't have a capital, if you don't have credit, if you don't have credentials, your banks are not going to allow you to open a bank account. To be more direct and to be very simple, simply banks do not open a bank account for poor people. That's the primary reasons why the low income, low credit people cannot have a bank account. So how many are there? So right now, obviously the population of the earth is way more than 5 billion, but I'm specifically talking about the internet users. So we have about 5 billion internet users. So 5 billion people have access to the internet, but within 5 billion of internet users, 1.7 billion have no bank account, which means they can use a smartphone, they can have the computer and connect it to the internet, but they don't have a bank account because they lack credit, credential, and capital. So I looked it up in Google. What's the population percentage in Vietnam who has no bank account, which is surprisingly 68%. So most of the sort of Southeast Asia, Africa, or Natam area, this number is not uncommon. It's pretty common. So it's way above the 50% of the people have no bank account. So what's bad about it, right? Obviously, it's really bad because if you have credit and credential and capital, you can have a bank account, and if you have a bank account, you have access to local financial access, most of them. But if you do not have 3 C's, all you can do is you can hold cash physically, and if you have cash, you have no financial access. You cannot do lending, you cannot do borrowing, you cannot do anything. So now we live in a world where global micropayment is possible through cryptocurrency and blockchain. You do not need 3 C, credit, credential, and capital. You can just hold crypto wallets, which is essentially your bank account. Then you can have a global financial access. So I'll give you the example. So what does that mean? It means through crypto and through stablecoins, everyone will be included in the global peer-to-peer economy, regardless of where they are and who they are. It means that we are no longer trapped by the local economic condition, economic status. So for example, Nigeria, the average daily income of Nigeria is $9, and average daily income of Philippines is $6. I don't know what the Vietnamese average daily income is. South Korea is $88. So let's say a content writer in Korea earns $88 a day in average, and content writer in Nigeria earns $9 a day. Does that mean the content writer in Korea is multiple better than Nigerian content writer? No. The reason why there's an income disparity is because they are trapped by the local economic condition. But these people have the internet access. They just don't have a bank account. So the great story I tell, which is true story and personal experience, is there was a guy named Inoue Bongabasi who's from Nigeria. He's 17, 18 years old or something. And he's a content writer. So he wrote English contents for Web3 companies around the world. And he charges $1.8 per word, which means that if he writes 400 words per day for 365 days, then he can make 80 times more than the average average Nigerian adult, right? And through the stable coins and cryptocurrency, he doesn't need to have a bank account. He doesn't need to have a SWIFT code or all this complicated traditional banking system and paying $20 fees and taking 3 days. This 17-year-old Nigerian kid has no credit, no capital, no credential, so he doesn't even have a bank account. But he can actually make 80 times more than a Nigerian adult, because he has the internet access, he has a crypto wallet. So people ask, what do you do with that stablecoin do you earn? Obviously, we're very early, so people are going to figure out, startups are going to figure out how to leverage that stablecoin. Maybe you could use Amazon with stablecoin sometimes. So essentially what I'm doing, what we are doing as a company, or what we are, whether or not we acknowledge we're conscious about it, what we're doing essentially is crypto, and my company GetPip.com is exporting economic freedom. It's not a sort of catchphrase or a sort of abstract concept. We're exporting economic freedom, because in our company we pay monthly salary to Turkey or Nigeria or all these developers around the world through stablecoins. So what do they do with stablecoins? Up to them, but we just pay them in stablecoins. And especially the Turkey, when the lira is currently crashing to the ground, and everybody's flocking into the stablecoins now, right? So it's a new world we live in, and it's a beautiful world that we're creating. So I hope I finished early, but I hope you guys start paying attention to the payment industry in crypto, which is very cool. And thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Jeff, and we are very happy. We appreciate that you have shared with us information for today, BUIDL Vietnam. So that is also the last speech for the morning section. First of all, I would like to say thank you very much for being here and staying with us. So now it's the noon break. For your information, the food court is at the ground floor, so you can find plenty of choices of food, Vietnamese food in ground floor. And for speakers and organizers of BUIDL Vietnam 2023, please proceed to the 5th floor for lunch. And we will be back at 1:30 p.m. So please come back here at 1:30 p.m. Thank you very much, and see you in the afternoon section.